It was an unusual thing for a raven to come feed you, but God, how many of you know God will use unusual things to take care of you? Because he's not going to do it the way we think it should be done, but he's going to do it the way he sees fit to do it. Amen? In verse 8 through 11, God led Elijah 90 miles to a town called Zarephath. God told Elijah that a widow would feed him. Go with me to Luke right quick. Luke chapter 4, verse 24 through 26. Amen. Amen. And God led him away from his own country, his own town, his own countrymen, and led him into another city. In Luke chapter 4, verse 24 through 36, it says, and he said, Jesus said, verily I say unto you, no prophet is accepted in his own country. But I tell you of the truth, many widows were in Israel in the days of Elijah. And when the heavens were shut up 3 years and 6 months, when the great famine was throughout all the land, but unto none of them was Elijah sent, except for the woman that was from Zarephath, a city of Sidon, unto a woman that was a widow. And many lepers were in Israel in the time of Elijah the prophet, and none of them were cleansed, except for Naaman the Syrian. These are Gentiles. So in other words, he wasn't received in his home, but God used him from amongst his people. So God, many times we want God to use us in the middle of our people, our family, want to prove, want to show them that we change. But a lot of times God's gifts don't operate around people that really don't receive you for who you really are. A lot of times he got to take you around strangers, people that are Gentiles, people that don't know nothing about you but are ready to receive God through you. They're not looking at who you are on the outside, but they're looking at what's on the inside of you, that they're needing to help them to get strength in their life. So many times we want to prove something to people in our family when God's trying to push us away from our family. He's trying to get you in a place where he can use you where somebody been crying out to him and somebody truly need him. The widows were usually poor people. Normally they ran out of food first in the midst of a famine. This famine had been created by the drought. It was a drought going on. He spoke the word, so that drought had took over the land. So this woman was sitting there going through a drought, famine. Therefore, going to a widow for food was a strange direction. God sent him in a strange direction to work a miracle in him. How many of you know sometimes God sends you into strange places to work a miracle through you? God was again using an unusual source to feed his prophet. Now, Lord, you're telling me to leave and go 90 miles, and I just left from the brook, and the brook done dried up. The ravens are gone, and now I got to go 90 miles to get to my next meal. Y'all don't feel me. Oh, but I still have to be obedient and go where you tell me to go. Because if you understand, the angel the ravens was feeding him and filled his flesh up, and he was able to make the journey into the Zarephath. Somebody needs to write this down. When you step out of the usual and walk in the unusual, you receive the unimaginable. When you step out of the usual and walk in the unusual, you will receive the unimaginable. See, when you step out of what you usually do, when you step out of what you think is comfortable and step into something that's unusual, then what God can give you is beyond imagination. See, because you have stepped out of your comfort zone and went somewhere being instructed and led by God in a strange direction around strange people. But how many of you know that God usually show up in strange situations? God ain't going to show up when you're sitting up there doing what you want to do. But God likes to take you somewhere where you've never been, around people that don't know nothing about you. Unusual, a strange place, in a place you've never been before. And that's when His Spirit will show up and show out. See, I like this because sometimes we have to be, when we led in the Spirit, we don't know what's going on. When we led by the Spirit, we don't know what's going to be said next. Take nothing for your journey. Because when you don't take nothing for your journey, you're walking under the instructions of God. You're walking just by what the Spirit says. I'm walking by faith and not by sight. I don't know where I'm going, but God told me to go in the Zarephath. God told me to go there. There's going to be a woman that's going to bless me. But I just need to be obedient and go where God tells me to go. The problem is we want to stop off and go somewhere else on the way where God's telling us to go. Only thing we have to do is stay in the will of God and keep our focus and get where God is trying to take us to. Sometimes you got to realize people are going to meet you on the way to make you get out of your blessing. Oh my God. The word unable. I had to look that word up because it blessed me with the word unusual. Unimaginable. It blessed me. The word unable means not able. Lacking the ability, the means or power to do something. Unable. So in other words, when God tells you to go somewhere unusual, it's somewhere that you're not able to do it on your own will. It's a place where you don't have the power or the ability to do what you need to do for yourself. So you can't help but trust somebody. So you might as well trust God. If God leads you somewhere, He don't want you to go in your ability. He don't want you to have the means to know how to do it or the power, but He wants you to trust in Him that He going to lead you where you need to go. A lot of times we trying to do it ourselves. But Elijah was led by God and went to the brook and was fed flesh and bread and all this by a raven, and he still stayed there until the brook dried up because he didn't hear from God, but he knew that he didn't have no power to make water come to him. He knew he didn't have no power to bring food to him, but he knew if he trusted God and stayed in the will of God, that God will provide for him. So obediently Elijah made his way to Zarephath. When he entered the town, he tested the first widow he saw by asking her for a drink. Can you give me a drink? He said, fetch me, I pray thee, a little water in a vessel that I may drink. And the woman went to get the water. But on her way, her favorable response led him to request a piece of bread. Because she was obedient to go get the drink, he said, oh, while you at it, give me some bread. When you give uncommonly, God gives uncommon blessings. Yeah, I don't feel that. When you give uncommonly, God gives uncommon blessings. What I mean by uncommonly means that this is all I got, and you're asking me for it. How many of you know that's an uncommon gift? See, a lot of people like to give when they got a lot. A lot of people like to give when they know they got a lot of stuff. But when you give what you got, and you know it's uncommon that I usually give my last, then God can't help but give you an uncommon blessing. Something that you wasn't expecting. Something that you wasn't anticipating. See, you gave because God spoke and you was obedient to God. You can't help but receive something in return. But a lot of times we say that's not God speaking to me. But this woman said that's all I have, and she still ran to get it. And as she was going to fetch, he called her and said, bring me, I pray thee, a morsel of bread in thy hand. And she said, as the Lord thy God liveth, I have not a cake and a handful of meal and all this, and I gather stick that I might eat and my son might eat and we die. But the widow recognized Elijah as an Israelite and appealed to Yahweh in affirming that she had no bread. She had only a little flour and oil, enough for